Right on.
You ready?
I'm ready. We're gonna go to Matthew first.
I could get up and leave now. You could just take all the hate.
Oh yeah. Well, no, there's a little bit of that in there because we were talking about Trump earlier. Well, let's go to Matthew. He's a good guy here, and he's always throwing some money in the tip jar. Thank you, Matthew. He goes, by John Riley's past logic, Niebla has a problem with blowing out Padres pitchers' arms. Just kidding around, fellas, but the elbow injury epidemic is such a bummer for all baseball fans.
Yeah, we're getting ready to complete 6 weeks of spring training. We have now had, with the Garrett Cole surgery last week with the Yankees, we've now had 7 elbow surgeries in 6 weeks of spring training. And at this point in time, Matt, there's no solution to the situation. I'd be concerned about the Darvish situation because this is the 3rd time he's had this elbow flare in 3 years with the Padres. And of course, he had surgery back in 2015. So they're going to have to handle it with kid gloves. Hopefully it's tendonitis, and that just comes from throwing too many different wide variety of pitches. But if it's more than that, then we're talking setback and we're talking rest. And, every injury is different. Elbow is different than forearm. That's different than rotator cuff. And Waldron's got this oblique, which takes a fair amount of time to recover from. So pitching injuries are everywhere in Major League Baseball, as witnessed by the Yankees. We're going to do our baseball preview next week, maybe next Thursday. We're going to go team by team, division by division. But Yankees have 5 starting pitchers on the disabled list, led by Garrett Cole, their ace. They have no depth whatsoever. They got 3 top starters that are hurt. Yankees are in big trouble. And this is good. The war of attrition with pitchers, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, there's no position in sports that's quite like this. Mm-hmm. Maybe quarterbacks to a degree where they suffer a lot more injuries than other categories or other positions.
Take a lot of hits.
They do. I mean, and the stress on the arm. I mean, but to Matthew's point here is, yeah, we can blame Mark Pryor for all the injuries on the Dodgers staff. And I think that's what he's going at, because we made that comment earlier, is we were wondering why that was so prevalent in the Dodger system. But now, yeah, a little karma coming back to the Padres, so they're going to have to go dig deep in that starting rotation.
I just don't know where they're going to go get more starting pitching. They don't have anything at AAA. And if your sales pitching me, well, they had Brito. Well, Brito's got forearm problems again, and he's done for a chunk of the season. And, you could say, well, they have Kyle Hart from Korea, but that's not pitching. Korea's like AAA baseball at best.
But he was the Cy Young Award winner there.
But he's hardly pitched at all, and it's AAA baseball.
Well, I mean, but they're going to have to dig deep, yep. So it may be Vasquez. I heard the oblique problem with Waldron is not super serious.
We don't know that.
But
until he starts to try to throw with oomph.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't need to throw with a lot of oomph because he throws the knuckleball. That might work to his advantage.
I don't think so. I think you're reaching for me on that. Matthew, thanks for joining us. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Carlos. And he says, hey, when healthy, this Laker team is dangerous. Wins against the Celtics, Nuggets, OKC, T-Wolves, and so on. The key is to be healthy, and they can make a deep playoff run.
Well, it is intriguing to me, Carlos. It's intriguing to me that the whole world defensively is collapsing on Luka Doncic. And by virtue of that, that is a lot more operating room for Austin Reeves to shoot, or even for their centers, Jackson Hayes, to get open down the paint for close-in shots, slam dunks, etc. Now, the Lakers have put together this phenomenal run without LeBron and without Rui Hachimura. But Doncic has drawn so much attention defensively that other guys have a lot more space to operate. I will also tell you, they're playing a bunch of cripples. Denver just looked totally like they didn't want to be there last night. I mean, that was horrible. And I knew that Murray was hurt. I did not know that Nikola had been scratched right before tip-off, and the Nuggets were just outmanned. And I'm sorry, I don't get excited about beating the 15-70 Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards or some of the other ragtags that they've had to play. But hey, we get to postseason and get LeBron back. Fascinating to see if they can continue to play at this level, because man, they are going up and down the floor and hitting a lot of threes.
Yeah, it's all about the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the regular season in the NBA, sometimes you wonder, the load management thing, or they'll have a quote injury, but maybe it's not really an injury. But yeah, let's get to the playoffs and then we'll see some real ball.
It's like life. NBA, you got to play 80 plus. Like life. Got to pay your taxes on April 15th. There's like life.
Similar.
On we go to postseason. Thanks for the comment, Carlos.
Okay, we got some more here from Matthew because he's a good man putting money in the tip jar. And this is some Dodger talk. And he says, Ohtani home run was a litmus test for how he is viewed.
Tell you what, it's just the way the fans reacted. I was so stunned at the respective John Q fan. With apologies, it sure didn't look like anything I've experienced in the press box or sitting with the fans in the upper deck at Petco Park. The noise and the excitement and the hate. Japanese fans are just really respectful till the ball's in play. And they go, whoa, and they were reacting. Boy, Ohtani was absolutely phenomenal. And we talked about the pressure. How about the pressure on Ohtani? He admitted that he was really, really overwhelmed with the nerves at the start of that game, because he's the focal point for the whole country. And then Sasaki was so amped early, and I thought it emotionally wore him out. But now they're coming back and they'll play here. But it was so cool. And I saw a game in the Tokyo Dome. I saw the Tokyo Giants play a game when I was doing the NFL. We went and played there in a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Tokyo Dome. But I went to a Japanese league game. It was just different, just really different. The ball is a different size. The mound is at a lower level. And just a respect. And the fact that Japanese fans smoke. Holy crap. They smoke indoor in a dome stadium. It just drove me crazy because the smoke would rise to the roof. It'd sit there. And our press box was up top near the roof where the smoke was. It would just, but anyhow. So the whole persona of Japanese fan is really different than Philly fan.
Oh, yeah. So totally different. I was also in Japan in the early 90s, and I went to a game, the Seibu Lions, and then the Yakult Swallows. And I was amazed by it because the fans there had songs. They were singing like a soccer game.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this in a ballpark in America. And then the whole, I don't know how I'm going to try to say this carefully, but the whole like female kind of fashion statement, baseball, Hello Kitty, kind of all blended together. There's a certain energy around that with Japanese baseball, where American baseball is more like Americana, more like, dudes drinking beer, doing stuff with the family with popcorn and ice cream and hot dogs, but in Japan, it was a different kind of a vibe.
Different feel.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Okay, thank you for the input. Next one.
Oh, by the way, did that home run actually clear the fence? I think there was some controversy about that, right? The Ohtani home run.
No, it went to the back of that deck.
Okay.
In the stands.
Okay.
Man, but he launched it. Holy cow, he hit it.
Okay, let's keep moving here, and we'll go to Gary. And Gary says, hey, will Matt Waldron be with the team this year? Is it going to be Hayward or Connor Joe in left field? Great show. Thanks, Hacksaw.
All honesty, Gary, Waldron goes on the disabled list to start the season with the oblique. There have been a lot of oblique injuries this year in spring training, most of them to designated hitters and guys in the field. Those injuries can go anywhere from 4 weeks to 7, if not more. So Waldron is going to be down for a while. I'm led to believe Hayward is going to be the starting left fielder. When initially Hayward said he was going to be a rotating guy in center and right, Hayward's going to be in left, but he has not hit at all. I think he was hitting 118 as of this week. Connor Joe's hit better. I don't know that Connor's going to play on a consistent basis. Maybe Connor and Hayward will platoon in left field, and Connor can play a little bit of first base, although Arise has had a great spring and is just spraying the ball all over the place now that his thumb is healthy. So, I think it'll be left field by committee, and thank God the catchers got gloves because they sure didn't bring their bats to spring training. Southwest Airlines must have lost all the bats of all the Padre catchers. They didn't hit worth a lick in the spring, but they're gonna start with the defensive guys behind home plate. So they think they've answered questions. I'm really going to be intrigued to see where Gavin Sheets plays. He's not played much left field. He can play some first base. Maybe he's going to be the DH. And he had a great last half of the spring. He's got 6 home runs here in the last week and a half. But is that going to continue? Because once we get to regular season pitching, you're going to face everybody's number 1 and number 2s, and Sheets has never been able to hit those guys with any consistency. I think Sheets has been maybe the biggest surprise of anybody.
Yeah, probably in the Cactus League. But, we don't talk about Tirso Ornelas anymore. I mean, that was the big talk in the first half of spring training. Now I'm wondering if he's even going to make the team.
maybe he's a bench guy. All honesty, I think Eggy Rosario's played himself off the roster. He's just not hit, which kind of surprises me because he's had these flashes 2 years in a row at the end of the season. He came up and it can't keep them all. Somebody's got to leave. Lockridge, I think, has probably made the team as a super center fielder, super left fielder because he can run and he puts the ball in play. So, he's a pinch hitter or he's a defensive replacement, et cetera. And the guy was hitting over 300 right from the start of spring on. So I think he's played himself into opening day. And I think Eggy has probably played himself to go back to El Paso. He doesn't have any options left, but they put him on waivers. Who's going to claim him? Because you claim him, then you got to put him on your roster.
Well, I think generally speaking, they have 4 guys on the bench, and one of them will be the backup catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's only 3 chairs, and it's musical chairs. And I don't see all these guys making it. Now, granted, they're going to be playing on the team at some point because someone's going to get hurt or there'll be some problem here. But do you think Preller makes a deal before the season starts?
I don't see what he's got he can trade. And what's he going to trade for? Because, nobody's trading you pitching. And what kind of bad message does it send to you, season ticket holder, if he trades Dylan Cease? What kind of message do you get from that?
Well, it depends what you get in return. And that rumor's still been out there
Yes.
it's still cooking. So I don't know. Preller has a history of making deals right near the end of spring training.
Exactly. I hope not. I like Cease. I like King. I know a lot about Pavetta. That's a good 1, 2, 3. But I think it sends a really bad message to season ticket holder if you're going to trade one of your aces, even if you think you're getting 3 or 4 in return. At this late date, I don't know what's the proper thing to do. One man's opinion. It's probably the right one though. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to Robert, and he goes, since baseball lost strategy with the DH and the rules to shorten the game, why not stop the game after 9 innings and have ties? 2 for win, 1 for tie, 0 for loss, or only play for a win in a playoff.
Robert, you've been drinking before this podcast even started. No. Don't. That's too radical a change of the game. What they've implemented, the ban of the shift, positive. What they've implemented, pace of play, from a marketing standpoint, the speed of the game, I think that's really been a positive. But let's not go over the edge, please. Ties in baseball.
Well, it's that line is it's high as like kissing your sister.
Yeah.
So whenever I've gone like the San Diego FC, they tied, and after the game you just sort of feel meh. It's just you don't feel great, you don't feel bad, you just kind of feel like neutral, and it's an odd feeling coming out of a stadium.
Even a couple of years ago when they came up with the idea of the ghost runner at second base, not a ghost, but to start the 10th inning, I thought, that's too gimmicky. But then you think about putting a ghost runner at second base to start the 10th inning, that's a pressure point right with the start of that 10th inning or 11th inning or the 12th inning. Now, they don't do it in the World Series or the playoffs. They probably should, but I think that's been a plus to the game. It adds a little bit of energy. Now, I don't like the idea of what was it called, the golden bat? Manfred came up with this. Yeah. He must have been drinking that night too.
I think him and his buddies were.
Yeah, we could have Ohtani come back, hit in the 8th inning, but he has one opportunity to hit in the 9th. If they want to win the game, they could put him in. No, we're not doing that. And we're not having ties in baseball, Robert.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first saw his post, because I'm kind of glancing through them as you're going through Hacksaw's headlines, I thought he was making a sarcastic comment about the NFL overtime, where, well, if it's a field goal, then the other team still gets the ball, but if you get a touchdown, then the game's over. And then that.
Not if they voted in the new rule. No.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go here to John. He goes, the NHL sees a lot of money and fan interest in repeating that 4 nations. As for the 3 weeks, there's a lot of players still dealing with injuries suffered during the 4 nations. The Caps were lucky to not have any players selected for the 4 nations in retrospect. The NHL the NHL schedule is already 82 games, not 80.
They're talking about going to 84. And the Players Association would have to sign off that. But what they're also talking about is a byproduct of we would delete some of the preseason games and we would start the schedule the end of September rather than in the middle of October. So they'd add more games to the schedule, John, but they would extend out the calendar a little bit. A lot of dialogue, but they are opening this collective bargaining agreement conversation. I think it's April 1st is when the first meeting is going to be held.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that gap that I think is good because the player. Now, granted, if you're in the four nations, you're going to be playing, but everyone else gets to rest. And then it's almost like, do you remember when we had the strike in baseball, and then they had the second half of the season? It's almost like a second opening day because hey, we're starting again,
Mhm.
and it has that excitement again. I'm very open to this, especially if you have a good tournament in between that gap.
And the players, I mean, this season is such a grind, and the travel is so hard in the NHL. You know, I think they'd take a 3-week break. They would really like it, 3-week break. These guys are battered by the time you get to
Yeah.
midseason. So we'll see where it goes, but everything has to be negotiated. Thanks, John.
Okay, let's go here to Jay McGee. He says, funny when MLB players suck, they all of a sudden get hurt.
Well, I'm not sure who he's making reference to sucking, but injuries are really become a problem, notably in Major League pitching. I went back and checked. There were 200, I think it was 251 surgeries last year in baseball and pitching. That encompasses forearms, elbows, and rotator cuffs. But think about that, 250 plus surgeries. That's an awful lot of pitchers going down. And again, it's
Mhm.
just it's a variety of pitches they're throwing, and these guys subscribe to it. That this is what's going to help me win. This is what's going to help my club win. This is what's going to get me a big contract. And if I get hurt, I'll have Tommy John surgery. I'll sit out a year and come back and be healthier. But that's an unbelievable amount of guys who had surgery.
It is a lot of surgery. I agree with you there, but this whole thing is manipulated. I mean, because like I was watching the replay of the first game, Tokyo Dodgers Cubs, and they had Clayton Kershaw in the booth,
Mhm.
and who was real glib and had a lot to say and was interesting. But you could tell, like, he is very comfortable being in his situation that there's no rush for him to come back. So then it just makes you wonder: are they manipulating the injured list? Because they don't really need to have him playing right now; they can let it wait. And on the other hand, are there guys that are sucking, but they say, oh, well, they have an oblique injury, and now we're going to have to put him on the injured list so they don't have to cut him.
I think all the medical information has to go through Major League Baseball.
Okay, so there is integrity to that.
Yes, yeah, there is. And again, Kershaw's situation is coming off 2 surgeries.
Hmm.
So that I mean, but people don't cheat now because it was the Atlanta Braves maybe 5 years ago. They were hiding guys, and they got nailed by Major League Baseball for doing that.
Yeah,
You
good.
can't do it now.
Good. Yeah, that's what I've always wondered if they were manipulating that.
Okay, thanks, Jay.
Let's go back to another coin jar offering here from Matthew. Thanks, Matthew. Pod's in a weird spot of win now versus future assets.
It's a huge issue. Go back to my statements. Padres, this is their window. This is their window to make the World Series, and now it closed a little bit more last year when they had the chance and didn't get it done. 24 shutout innings and all that. And and the problem is there's nothing at AAA or even to a degree at AA. It's ready to come at the major league level. The other problem is all these guys under big money contracts, they're going to now another year older, and some of them have a little bit of injury history now. Machado's got one, Xander Bogaerts has got one. They got contracts you can't cut and you can't trade. So this window to win and be a World Series team has to happen pretty doggone quickly.
Well, think about they've talked a lot about how a lot of the Padres are healthy because Machado doesn't have the elbow problem. Tatis, all of his stuff is in the back, the rear view mirror, including the ringworm and all that. So I don't know. I just think there's a new level of maturity with Tatis where he is really focused on performing. I don't know. I think some of these guys, they're in, like Machado said, he's in the best shape of his life.
But that doesn't mean he can't pull a hamstring running down first base. I mean, Tatis, it doesn't mean he can't re-injure this quad sometime chasing a fly ball into right center. I mean,
anything could happen. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the bigger question to me, we know that Machado has arrived as a star. There's been a big thread of consistency. Is Tatis ever going to be what he was before he got hurt? Remember, he had a 42 home run season.
Yeah.
And now he's a 25 home run hitter making mega money for 14 years. Can Tatis be a real superstar rather than just an all-star player? Because he's getting paid like he's a 42 home run hitting guy. And we haven't seen that in the last couple of years.
That guy, man, is an athletic specimen.
Yes.
I mean, just the silhouette of his body is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so tall and wide shouldered, yet so elegant and athletic. I mean, this guy should conquer baseball. So maybe this is the year.
We'll find out. They hadn't done it in the last couple of years. He's had a lot of different nagging injuries. Got to stay healthy. Padres window is not closed, but there's an issue here in terms of time frame that I think we really need to pay attention to. And from the Padres pitching perspective, Darvish has got 150,000 miles on him. He's 38. Dylan Cease is a walk-free agent. Michael King is a walk-free agent. Nick Pivetta is here on a multi-year contract. He's going to get paid $19 million next year because he structured it to help him this year with the luxury tax. But suddenly, we got all kinds of pitching issues here. If Darvish can't be what Darvish has been for a long time, and we're sending Cease and King's mail somewhere else next season on opening day.
Well, we'll worry about that. We're not even to opening day this season.
I know. I'm just telling you the realities.
Well, yeah, it is a reality. Hopefully they can sign Cease or King long-term, maybe both. But yeah, here we go. How many years are left on Darvish's contract?
I want to say through age 42. So that would be 3 years, 4 years.
So age 40, 41, 42 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years. So hopefully this is just a minor thing.
I concur.
And hopefully he's back in the rotation late April, early May.
Next Thursday. Circle it on your calendar. Our baseball preview. John, next question.
Let's go here to Greg. He goes, Lee and John, I hear there's an organization in Portland, Oregon, trying to get an MLB team. Topic on the table. Can Portland support an MLB team?
Well, they say they have the money together and they have the real estate on the Willamette River to build a baseball stadium. Smaller market. It'd have to be a regional franchise. Baseball's not glanced at Portland as if it's ready to expand to Portland. Nashville seems to be ahead of Portland in terms of putting together a group and the whole stadium idea. Charlotte remains out there. So that's where we are right now. Montreal is out there, but for some reason they don't seem to want to go back to Canada at this point in time. But Portland's done a lot of the things with, I think it's called the Portland Gold proposal. But in terms of having baseball look at them and say, yeah, you're a market we're going to look at. No, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but I like the idea of expansion. And the Northwest region, there's a lot more people there. It's a growing area. It'd be cool to have Portland have another team on the West Coast. That could work logistically. But, we'll see. I mean, do you think the Rays would ever move, or any other team would move, or we are only talking about expansion?
I think we're talking expansion because, the owners would say, wait a minute, why am I going to let Tampa or Miami, why would we let them move? We'll expand. A lot more money in expansion fees than letting somebody go into another market.
Well, what about the A's in Vegas? I mean, that's still not really a done deal, is it?
They seem to think it is.
So, I mean, if we're all hell went loose on that, maybe the A's could go to Portland.
True. But you got to build a stadium in Portland. That's not going to happen 2 weeks from Monday. That's a big, big project. Okay, we move on. Thanks, Greg.
Okay. There's a lot of other people that are dropping F-bombs about your comments about Trump.
Do you want me to leave now?
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Well, you can. I don't.
No, I don't want to go there. Some of it is not safe for work. So let's go to do some social media here, and let's talk about the Seahawks. This is what I thought was interesting from Behoya No. DK Metcalf is not worth the money he's getting from Pittsburgh. Geno is a 35-year-old passenger quarterback who does not elevate anyone around him. You, including a team that added draft capital, freed up massive cap space going into 26 and beyond, and revamped their 23rd ranked offense, is as a loser, is the single most out-of-touch take I have seen all offseason, the most casual of casual takes.
That must be a Seahawk fan making reference to all that?
It is, yeah.
Well, that's fine. If you believe John Schneider can win with a patchwork offense, and that's what he's doing right now, yeah, granted, he's going to have cap space, and, we'll see what happens with Sam Darnold. We found out last week that Sam Darnold's contract has a 1 year out, that the Seahawks can say, this isn't working, we're not going to pay him again. They're paying him $35 million this season. They got Cooper Kupp, so that's a short-term rental too. So but Seattle's got so many issues. They had all these running backs and they have injury after injury problems. Their offensive line hasn't been very good. They've kind of gutted the defense. So it's a lot of work to be done. And all they've done is just reached and picked up this guy standing in the hallway, and that comes to my roster. And I haven't been impressed with what Schneider's done there. Now, McDonald's a pretty good coach, but I don't know if he's got enough players there in Seattle, but we'll see what the draft brings, and we'll go from there. Most all the free agents are off the board, though.
I don't follow the Seahawks intently, but I just sort of peripherally. And it's sort of like they're just out there and their guys are going in, guys are going out. They're sort of like a mid-level team. I kind of lost track of them at a detailed level, after Russell Wilson's best days.
Yeah, exactly. And Smith came in and he put up some numbers, but did they win? Not a heck of a lot. And then Smith had the gall to ask for $40 million a year. And they promptly traded him 5 days later and said, no, we're not doing this. So he wound up going to the Raiders. Now it's a Raiders problem because they gave up, what was a 3rd-round draft pick, I think, to get him. But now the Raiders have to get him signed. And, geez, you hate to lose the guy. If the guy becomes a free agent, you paid a 3rd-round pick to get a guy for 1 year.
Well, you're the former voice of the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, I was there and watched transition. I was there with Dennis Erickson into Mike Holmgren, and that was kind of cool to see them fix that thing. It's a great football market, both University of Washington at Husky Stadium and the Seahawks, but they're in a little bit of it's a different time now. And if you don't have a quarterback, that's a big issue now. Which Darnold shows up? Is it the Darnold that flourished under Kevin O'Connell's coaching, and he might flourish under McDonald's coaching because he's got a nice track record as a smart guy? But I thought Seattle was right on the brink when they had the wide receiver. I thought with Tyler Lockett, and they got Njibas Smith from Ohio State to go with the veteran, I thought, holy cow, this is going to be pretty good. But then Metcalf got injured, and Metcalf seemed to have attitude issues, and then they gave up on Lockett. Lockett was not a young guy by any stretch of the imagination. So it's just not the same roster, and you need players to compete.
You know what's cool about the Seahawks is they're kind of like the Oregon Ducks when it comes to their uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all these different versions of combining that green and blue, and oftentimes that sort of fluorescent green.
You like that lime green, don't you?
I like it. I think it's a good look. And it's got that sort of, what's the right word for it? Sort of the artwork,
Mm-hmm.
from the Northwest, of the carvings of the birds and different things. They're all kind of baked into that artwork for the Seahawks.
Is that going to help them win 12 games?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Were you there at the Kingdom?
Yeah.
You were in the Kingdom.
Oh, yeah. I was there when they tore the Kingdom down.
Hmm.
That was historic to see them implode the Kingdom. They
Yeah.
brought me, Cairo Radio brought me up for that. I was still doing the games for the 3 years I was there, and to see them hit that button and that thing imploded.
Oh yeah,
It's amazing.
it is unbelievable.
And then they built a new one right there, the new stadium right there at I think it's called Pioneer Square. That area. That's where they built the new stadium next to the baseball park.
That's why they were playing at UW.
Yeah,
for
a
2
couple
3
years.
years. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's move on. Let's do little Padres. This is from Luis. He says, Lee, how old are you? Spring training record? Come on, man. It's the work that's done on the back fields that matters, not the games.
I concur. 1-loss record doesn't mean a hell of a lot because you're trying to get answers on players. Luis, you're correct in that assessment. But when nobody is hitting at all, and your stars are hitting 118, and the guys you're banking on are hitting 125, and your catchers collectively, I think as of last week, all 3 catchers were hitting a combined 116. That give you hope for when the regular season starts next Thursday and you're facing everybody's ace in their number 2 and 3 guys in the rotation? I'm just a little surprised they've not hit. But, you want answers. Now they got problems because of what's happened to Darvish and what's happened to Waldron more than anything else. They still got some problem. At the end of the day, Luis, do you think you have a left fielder? Do you really have a major league catcher that you can live with who hits 118? Because those 3 guys aren't hitting at all. So there's still questions here. He's correct in his assessment. Wins and losses don't mean much, but you got to produce sometime during the spring, no?
Yeah, but the starters for the major league team, when they do play, they only go like 4 innings.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th, can't keep track of them on the scorecard. You don't know who they are. And so, yeah, the games go sideways and everything. I just remember as a kid being just so thrilled that the Giants were in first place in spring training. And my uncle said, it doesn't matter. Don't pay attention to that. And yeah, it didn't matter. They went right to the tank in the regular season.
Great spring training story, Vero Beach. I'm down there. I took my talk show down there to broadcast from Vero Beach, Dodgertown. It was cool. And we were talking about young guys, old guys, Dodger heritage. Eric Karras told me the story. He said, we had the veterans met with the rookies, and we talked about how important spring training games were and getting to learn and all that and prove yourself and da-da-da-da. And he said, and by the way, just for your rookies to know, if we win the grapefruit circuit, everybody gets a TV. And the rookies' eyes were Karras is just feeding the rookies his storyline. Oh, just amazing.
Right on, man. You told me about that because you got to interview Vin Scully when you were down there.
Oh, yeah. I interviewed everybody. Peter O'Malley was there. It was so cool. So much heritage at Dodgertown. Oh, I was so sick that Frank McCourt pulled them out of Vero Beach. And obviously, they got a great setup, great situation at Camelback Ranch with the share with the White Sox. And that was an economic, geographical issue. But Dodgertown, Vero Beach, my God, is so cool. So many stories there.
Oh yeah, even in the Jackie Robinson movie,
Sure.
they show him down there at Vero Beach when he broke camp with the team.
Yep,
and that was something.
Okay, on we go.
Here's a Dodger post here since we're talking Dodgers. This is from Nerdy Max, and this is when you're asking, do all these teams have enough pitching? And he says, yeah, that's a hot take. I don't see why the Dodgers are being considered questionable. The Dodgers don't seem to have a problem, in my opinion.
I don't think there's any question about the Dodgers. I'm just quoting the statistic. The Dodgers, as of this hour, have 11 pitchers. That's Major League and a bunch of guys AAA on the disabled list. And a whole pile of those guys are rehabbing and coming back from surgeries, led by Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, et cetera. But the Dodgers are really, really deep in pitching too. So Dodgers are not questionable. It's the season starts next Thursday for everybody else. You're all invited to the Dodger Invitational tournament.
Exactly. But Dustin May is kind of questionable because he was looking good and then he wasn't looking good, right? So
yeah, but they say he's going to be the fifth starter at least to start the season because Gonsolin has a back problem and Gonsolin just got put on the disabled list too. But they got the next guy in line. The next guy's Landon Knack, who won the second game for them in Tokyo. So I mean, they're just really deep because they're a good organization in terms of scouting players.
Dodgers, man. Those guys, unbelievable. All right, let's keep moving and let's get in some pro football talking about Aaron Rodgers. And this is from Nick Knack. He says, Rodgers was done when he left Green Bay. Further tarnishing his record is all that remains.
Well, it's kind of sad. He's playing this waiting game. He's making everybody wait till he makes his decision. Well, Minnesota just announced this morning they're not granting him a second interview. They're not interested any longer. Now, the Vikings don't have a legitimate veteran quarterback, and maybe there's a transaction coming. They're going to get somebody because I don't think J.J. McCarthy is ready for the OTA workouts coming off that major meniscus knee surgery. But, he's got Pittsburgh's on hold. The Giants are on hold because they're waiting on him. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know why he has to go out this way. He's a Hall of Famer. Why are you conducting business this way? If you want to play, make the decision. But like I said last week, he's got an issue because he chooses the Giants. They don't have any people around him. So the Giants are a worse scenario than last year with the Jets. He goes to Pittsburgh. He has to accept the philosophy that Mike Tomlin wants to run the hell out of the ball. And were he have gone to Minnesota, it would not have been his team. It's Kevin O'Connell's team. So he's going to have to reel in his persona a little bit. I hate to see him go out like this because it besmirches what was really a great, great run. No?
Yeah, the whole thing is weird, because on one level you'd say, yeah, finish. This is probably the end of his career, maybe 2 seasons, but probably one. Maybe he thinks I should go to the Giants, go out in New York City, but he was just in New York City. He's probably going to get boos from the fans. And then like to your point, the Giants haven't no other players around him. Although they have that one really good rookie receiver.
Yes.
But then, you go to Pittsburgh and you're not in the limelight as much. It's a little bit out of the spotlight of
but New York. It is the Steelers.
It is, But actually, that might be a smart way to go. Maybe kind of a conservative way for him to go out, knowing that he could be smart and he can have other guys running the ball and maybe he can make the playoffs and make a run.
Should he have been the Raiders quarterback rather than Geno Smith?
Well,
I didn't understand the rationale because I still think he's got gas left in the tank. What did he throw for 3,700 yards in a bad situation? You go to the Raiders and he's playing for Pete Carroll and he's going to be with Chip Kelly, who's just amazing in terms of X's and O's. But the Raiders didn't seem to have any interest in him.
Well, you see how Pete Carroll got his old quarterback, Geno Smith, because they have a relationship and he knows how and when he can trust him in certain situations. Aaron Rodgers, trust is not one of the words you use with that guy because you don't know what you're going to get. But and then, but I love following Aaron Rodgers and just the eye rolls and the smirking and all that goes with him. He's just a fun guy to follow.
A lot of dynamics to the guy. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Okay, we did put the topic on the table about the Jackie Robinson thing. Do you want to bring one or two of these people up with an opinion? Whether they agree with you or me does not matter.
Oh, you want to go there?
Well, let's try it.
Oh, okay. There's some of them, like I said, are not.
We'll apologize in advance if there's anything rude and crude here, but hey, we expressed an opinion on a story. I thought it was just because everybody around the country is writing about it and commenting on it. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Sam the Tool Man. He goes, "Fuck you, Hacksaw, Trump all the way."
Well, congratulations. Look what your country's becoming because you voted the way you did. Sam, thanks for following. Next one.
What does he here say? That Tim the Hacksaw Waltz. I think it's probably because you were dancing on a topic. There was one other one in here that it was from Jay McGee. He says, "Screw liberals."
Everybody's got an opinion, including those who are wrong. Is there anybody out there that thinks that what the Department of Defense did it was a disservice to Jackie Robinson? There was none.
No, there were no like substantive, thoughtful comments. It was just more, rock throwing.
Okay, you can throw rocks. That's okay. Just don't cry. Go home and cry to mama if I throw one, hit you in the head. But I thought it was a terrible disservice. This whole anti-DEI thing, I think, has been a terrible disservice to society. That's one man's opinion. When you have your podcast, you can express your opinion.
Yeah.
Fair trade-off?
Well, yeah, it's got your name right on the, well, not on this screen, but it normally has your name right at the top. There it is. It says Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
Okay, just a couple of reminders. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it or fix it. We guarantee you'll enjoy it in 2025, thanks to Dixieline Lumber. A reminder, you like sports, please check my website. I write a ton every day. It's leehacksawhamilton.com. It's there first thing in the morning for you. Want you to share, subscribe, tell everybody what we're talking about Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Want you to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Therefore, you'll get the alerts every time we put something new up there. We put a lot of stuff up there all the time. And, of course, we'll be back on Monday. We'll talk March Madness, NCAA basketball, and circle next Thursday because we are going to do our baseball preview. John and I will discuss and argue division by division races, who's hot, who's not, who's got the best team, whose team might be in trouble. So baseball preview will be a week from today, next Thursday, which is opening day for virtually everybody in baseball. That cover everything?
Yeah, but the highlight of the day is UCSD against Michigan tonight, 5 versus a 12. This could be the story of the year for San Diego if the Tritons win.
March Madness. You don't get walk down that road very often. This is going to be fun. We will see you Monday afternoon at 1:30. It's always great to have you with us. Agree or disagree does not matter. This is your podcast. Thank you for participating. For John Riley, this is Lee Hamilton. Thanks for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to leehacksawhamilton.com.